Hello children, welcome back to our online class. So students, take out your English reader book. Chapter number 7, How I Went to Why. So take out page number 44 of English reader book. So children, do you know why this why is written in capital letter? How I went to why. Okay, it should be small but we have written capital. Why? Because here the why is a place, that is the kingdom. Okay, so this story has been written by G.E. Thoreau. Okay, G.E. Thoreau. He was born in 1862 and died in 1919. He was born in England. He was very well known for the books for children. He have written more than 30 books for children. Okay, now his best known books are Wallipug series. Wallipug series. Now we'll come to know about Wallipug. The first book of the series was the Wallipug of Why. Here also Why means the name of the place. Okay, and which was followed by Adventures in Wallipug Land. So this is all about the author. Okay, so let us start the chapter. How I Went to Why. The narrator receives a letter from His Majesty the Wallipug, asking him to visit the king at his palace in the land of Why. He finds his way to the fantastical land where strange things happen. Read on to learn about the narrator's experiences. So the narrator here, he receives a letter from His Majesty to come to the palace. Okay, to come to the palace, to come to the palace of Wallipug. That who is Wallipug? Wallipug was the king. Okay, so in this chapter we'll come to see how he experiences his journey to the kingdom. For some time past, I have been the guest of His Majesty the Wallipug at his palace in the mysterious kingdom of Why. It is a country so remarkable that even now I am only just beginning to get used to my strange surroundings and stranger neighbors. Okay, imagine, if you can, a place where all of the animals not only talk but take an active part in the government of the land. A place where one is likely to receive an invitation to an evening party from an ostrich or is expected to escort an elderly rhinoceros into dinner. It is a place where it is quite an everyday occurrence to be called upon by a hen with a brood of young chickens just as you are sitting down to tea. In such a country, the unexpected is always happening. So this is a fantastical account of the narrator's experiences in the kingdom of Why. So this extract tells us how narrator reached the kingdom. Then the narrator also tells us that he has been living in the kingdom for quite some time, in the palace with His Majesty the Wallipug, the king of Why. But that land was very much strange. Okay, and many strange happenings occur in this curious land. Why? Because there in the land of Why, the animals used to talk. The animals used to talk and participate, and these animals also participate in the governing of the land. Okay, so it was such a land that he had received an invitation from the ostrich bird, and he was escorted, that means, and he was taken by the rhinoceros. He is called upon to the palace by a hen with his chickens. He also used to drink tea with these animals. So it is a country where unexpected things always happen. You will naturally wish to know how I reached this strange country. Undoubtedly, you will surprise when I tell you how the journey was accomplished. So now he will tell us how his journey began in this country. Okay, and if we know also, then we'll be very much surprised, and we'll come to know how he managed to accomplish to go to the kingdom of Why. One morning, a few weeks since, I received a letter from His Majesty the Wallipug. He asked me to visit him at this palace at Why. So one day, I received a letter from the Majesty to visit the palace at Why. The Wallipug wanted me to assist him in establishing some of our social customs and methods of government which he had so greatly admired during his visit to England and which he was desirous of intimating in his own land. So why this Wali Pug called him up? He called him up because he wanted to assist him, okay, because he wanted him to assist Wali Pug in some of the social customs and the governmental systems. And why he decided to call only the narrator? Because he was, and when this Wali Pug went to England, and he was very much admired during his visit to England when he saw the narrator. A little packet was enclosed with a letter bearing the words, "The shortest way to Y." This sighed up with anxiety. So he was delivered a packet, okay, with a packet of letter. And in that packet it was written, "The shortest way to Y." Well, I suppose they mean this side up with care. I was proceeding very carefully to open the packet with a gust of wind rushed at the window and blowing open the paper wrapper scattered the contents a little white powder in all directions. Some particles flew up into my eyes and caused them to smart so violently, and I was forced to close them for some time till the pain had gone. When I opened them again, what do you think? I was no longer in my study at home, but out on a kind of heath in the brilliant sunshine, miles from a house of any kind. So when he received that packet, while he was trying to open the packet, so as all of a sudden there was some white powder which just blew out and just got in his eyes, okay. So and it was very difficult to open his eyes because it was full of white powder. But at the moment when he tried to open the eye, and when he opened the eye, he have seen that he was no more in that place, okay, where he was, and he reached in some other place where there was sunshine. It was miles away from his house. A finger post stood a little way in front of me. I could see that 3 roads met just here. Anxiously, I hurried up to the post to see where I was. One arm pointed to nowhere, and I certainly don't want to go there, I thought. The other one was inscribed to somewhere, which was decidedly a little better. But the third one said to everywhere else. So when he stood for a while, he could see a post, okay, he could see a post with some direction, like when we used to go in the traffic in the road, then there are some traffic signal. Some used to point in left direction, some signal point used to right direction, some in front direction, isn't it? In the same way, author also saw one post with some direction, okay. There is a picture, okay students, in picture, see this picture, clear? In one arm it was written nowhere. So the author decided better to ignore this because this road will lead to nowhere. Then one arm, then it lead to somewhere. Then he thought a bit, yes, at least this road will make me reach somewhere. And again in one arm it was written to everywhere else, okay. Then he was puzzled with the 2-1, that is somewhere and everywhere, then which road to take. And good gracious me, I thought, that's not much use, for I don't know in the least now which of these the last 2 roads to take. I was puzzling my brain as to what was the best thing to be done, when I happened to look down the road leading to nowhere. I saw a curious looking little person running towards me. He had an enormous head, and apparently his arms and legs were attached to it, for I could see no trace of a body. He was flourishing something in his hand as he ran along. As he came closer, I discovered that it was his card, which he handed to me with a polite bow and an extensive smile. So when he was analyzing where to go, in which direction to go, okay, so he can see a creature coming from nowhere, okay, coming from nowhere, and he was very curious looking little person running towards the narrator, okay. He had a big head, enormous head, and with his arms and legs attached to it. Now, but there was no trace of his body. He can see that something he was taking in his hand, and when he came closer, he handed that thing. It was a card which he handed to the narrator with a smile. Mr. Nobody, number 1. None such street nowhere is what I read. So in that letter, what it is written? Mr. Nobody, number 1, none such street. That means no such street nowhere is what I read. That means there is no streets in the nowhere. The little man was still smiling and bowing. So the little man was still there and he was bowing in this way. So I held out my hands and said, how do you do, sir? I am very pleased to meet you. Perhaps you can be good enough to tell me. The little man nodded violently. To tell me where I am, I continued. Mr. Nobody looked very wise. After a few moments' thought, he smiled and nodded more violently than ever, and smile pointed his finger at me. Yes, I cried rather impatiently. Of course, I know that I am here, but what I know to know is, which what place is this? The little fellow knitted his brows and looked very thoughtful. Finally, staring at me sorrowfully. He slowly shook his head. You don't know? I inquired. He shook his head again. Dear me, this is very sad, I said half aloud. So when he asked the little man, yes, can you tell me where I am now? He nodded. He cannot speak anything. He have not spoke anything, and he have simply shook his head. Okay, and he pointed his finger in this way. Then the narrator also says, I know I am in this place, but I want to know where nowhere is. Then the little man also thought for a while. Yes, where he is now. Then he said, I don't know. Like, he shook his head. Okay, why do you know why he shook his head? Because he is nowhere. His name is only Nowhere. He is from nowhere. Understood? So that is why he also simply that nowhere also don't know where he is and where the narrator is. So Mr. Nobody must have heard me, for he nodded violently. So his name is Mr. Nobody. So if there is nobody, who will dare to shook his head, or who will give him the address, isn't it? That means he is nobody. Then resuming his former smile, he bowed again and turning on his heels ran back in the direction of nowhere. Then he again gave a smile, bowed him, and again he returned to nowhere. This nobody went to nowhere. Clear? Every now and then he stopped to turn around, nod and smile and wave his hand. What a remarkable little person, I was just saying, when I heard a voice above my head calling out, man, man. So when this little man, he was going, he waved his hand and he was going away to nowhere. That nobody was going away nowhere. All of a sudden, he could hear a voice above his head. Okay, someone calling him man, man. Okay. I looked up and saw a large crow perched on the finger post. He held the newspaper and was gravely regarding me over the top of his spectacles. When he looked up, he could see a crow wearing the spectacles. Okay, and he was reading the crow was reading a newspaper. So children, in the next class I shall continue the rest of the chapter. Okay, till then you read up to here. Thank you.